Good morning, colleagues, and welcome to James's doctoral defense. James, I hope you are very set and calm. Okay, great. So we are gathered here to listen to James, and James will be defending his thesis, which is titled Behavioral Immunity and Post-Traumatic Growth Process, Post-Traumatic Growth Processes. I think this one is poorly written, sorry. Behavioral immunity and drug addiction related growth processes, commuter mental health insights from rehabilitation facilities in Jos, Nigeria. Is that how you say it? It's Jos, Jos in Nigeria. This thesis has been supervised by two professors, Professor Grace Kivanja from the School of Psychology and Prof. Paul Bangirana from the Department of Psychiatry in the medical school. This is how we are going to proceed. I will begin by, of course, introducing the candidate and the panel. And after the introductions, I will invite the candidate to make his opening remarks, if he has any. And after his opening remarks, he will go on to do his presentation in about 30 minutes. After the presentation, we shall have an engagement between the critical reader and the candidate, and that will take us about 60 minutes. After that engagement, we shall have the different members of the of the panel engaging the candidate, and that will take us about 30 minutes. And then we shall have the questions or comments from the audience, and that will take us about 10 minutes. After those interactions, we shall have a meeting or a retreat of the panelists to discuss the presentation and reach a verdict. And after that, we shall return to read our verdict to the candidate and to the audience. So once again, colleagues, you are welcome. So our opponent today is Professor David Khan Olema, who is from the Faculty of Science Education of Stema University. And our panelists include Dr. Retji Nwagawa, Dr. Samuel Ouma, Dr. Hamis Musanje, and we have Dr. Anne Ambaire as well in here. We also have Dr. Samuel Ouma as part of the panel. Sorry. Have I read him twice? Emphasis, yeah. That means he's very important to the defense, probably. So without further delays, maybe I call on the candidate to make his opening remarks if he has any. And if he doesn't have the opening remarks, then we would proceed to the presentation. But James, to you.
All right. Good morning, everyone. This is very delightful to me to be here. It's my turn today. I have watched other people. Now I can't escape this fire. But I am grateful to everyone who has made contributions, my supervisors, my doctoral committee, everyone else who has taken their time to be here. Thank you so much. I also want to welcome the critical reader. Thank you so much, sir. I pray that God will bless everyone. My Reverend is here. I hope she will pray before we proceed. That's my delight. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, James. And your request is granted. So please, let's have the prayer.
Good morning to you all. I'm Reverend Esther Sabete, St. Peter's Wandegea, where he prays from. But I'm also a student aspiring for PhD. So, yes, so shall we pray? We bless you, Heavenly Father, for the gift of life you have given to us and for this day. And Lord, for we are here for this cause, a noble cause. And I want to thank you for this milestone for your servant and the panelists, Lord, who are here to guide him, Lord, in this step of his life. Lord, we pray for your presence. We pray that we shall be guided by you. We pray that the meditations of our hearts and the words of our lips will be pleasing before you this day, Lord, to the glory of your name. Amen.
I also introduced to you our secretariat. We have Bahia, our registrar, and Joyce. Of course, before James starts his presentation, it's also important to recognize that James has reached this stage, also with the support of the doctoral committee members, Dr. Mayancha, Dr. Roscoe, Professor Chikoma. So, James, if you are set, we dive in. We have 30 minutes.
The topic for my presentation is behavioral immunity and drug addiction related growth processes, community mental health and insights from rehabilitation facilities in Jos, Nigeria. I know that before I started the doctoral program, I did some studies in positive psychology, and positive psychology has been very interesting to me. So I decided that I would choose a topic for a doctoral program which has something to do with positive psychology. So as an applied social scientist, I began to explore some of the benefits of applying positive psychology, especially in a special population, among those who are struggling with substance use disorders. And this affects a cross-section of society. So, just as it has been introduced, these are my supervisors and doctoral committee members. This would be the outline of the presentation, as you can see. All right. Positive changes often occur in the lives of several people when they pass through challenges. A few decades ago, with the work of Tedeschi and Calhoun, 1995, they introduced the concept of post-traumatic growth, which is a reflection of, which has significance in positive psychology. And therefore, they say that 30 to 70% of survivors of various traumatic events, such as transportation accidents, natural disasters, interpersonal experiences and medical problems, and other adverse experiences. There may be childhood problems. So positive psychology decided to look at some of these issues. Now, substance use disorders refer to any substance use or reinforcing behavior which is characterized by an appetitive nature. It has a compulsive and repetitive quality, and it is self-destructive with unsuccessful desire to control the substance use. It is also associated with tolerance and withdrawal symptoms. The drug crisis. The drug crisis, as we all know, is growing globally and regionally. And statistics indicate that worldwide, 316 million users are found. And out of this number, 64 million are suffering from substance use disorders, and 3 million is the annual death rate. Africa's drug seizures are growing, and Nigeria contributes the largest tally with an annual rate of over 14.3 million users among the 15 to 64-year-olds. This is based on a research in 2018 as reported by UNODC 2021. Now, this study is carried out in Jos, and Jos is located in the central Nigeria. It has been bedeviled by crisis and conflict which have prevailed from 1994 to date with increased illicit drug use. So every time there is crisis, young people resort to taking drugs in order to carry out their mayhems. So we have low distribution of facilities are found in Jos. We also have high rehabilitation costs. In the substance use disorder context, behavioral immunity is one of the variables that are introduced in this study. And it is regarded as a threat management system because it tends to help the individual to manage threatening cues that are associated with substance use disorder trauma. Despite the increasing rehabilitation efforts in Nigeria, little is known about how individuals experience psychological growth, which contributes to recovery. So psychological growth is one of those issues that you will see recurring in this study because it served as the dependent measure. In Jos, therefore, rehabilitation efforts are very high. However, facilities are sparsely distributed. They are grossly underfunded, and therefore they overtask rehabilitation efforts. PTG is post-traumatic growth, has been conceptualized and standardized using predominantly Western populations and contexts. However, research in positive psychology waves has begun to question some of these conclusions. And several research and treatment paradigms favor the negative factors that are implicated in substance use disorder-related trauma and stress-related disorders. These emphasize weaknesses, problems, and challenges that need to be fixed. And therefore, on the other hand, there is also overemphasis on the application of strength-enhancing variables, especially with the introduction of positive psychology by by Seligman. Few studies in behavioral immunity hold great potential in exploring substance use disorder and related growth processes beyond the traditional boundary of research. Actually, the traditional boundary of research in behavioral immunity deals with behavioral defense and avoidance of infections and infestations. However, this has not been specific to the study population, which is the substance use disorder participants. This study, therefore, sought to extend knowledge from a Western to a non-Western context using the quantitative and qualitative approaches. This is to help explore growth or recovery processes among participants that are attending rehabilitation. Now to the main objectives of this study. The main objectives of this study, the main purpose was to explore behavioral immunity, substance use disorder-related growth processes, and any associated variables. We will look at the associated variables later within the rehabilitation community. Actually, the specific objectives include testing the contributions of personality, social support, and self-stigma, and how they contribute to substance use disorder-related processes. It is also to explore behavioral immunity in understanding how substance use disorder growth processes result using grounded theory. So grounded theory in all the qualitative studies, the qualitative part of this study, grounded theory is the main approach. The third objective was to understand how post-traumatic growth and post-traumatic depreciation interrelate. These are the outcome variables for this study, post-traumatic growth and post-traumatic depreciation. How do they interrelate in measuring growth outcomes or substance use disorder growth outcomes? Again, I use grounded theory. Then the fourth objective includes deriving a theoretical framework for understanding substance use disorder related growth behavior processes. We have 8 hypotheses. These 8 hypotheses tested the relationships between some of the variables I had mentioned with the outcome variables, which is post-traumatic growth or post-traumatic depreciation. The first had to do with self-stigma, predicting post-traumatic growth experiences, self-stigma and post-traumatic depreciation, perceived social support and post-traumatic depreciation and post-traumatic growth, personality. Now, personality was measured at 2 levels. Personality was measured before addiction, so we refer to it as the perceived personality. Then personality was measured at the time when the study was carried out, that is, at the time of collecting the data, so personality now. Now the study significance. The significance of this study was to contribute to knowledge directions in substance use research, rehabilitation, education, and training. So it is basically an applied research. It is applied to understanding substance use research, rehabilitation, and education. It is also to emphasize the strength-based approaches in clinical and community mental health training. Similarly, it is also to contribute theoretical insights towards understanding, explaining, and interpreting addictive behavior. The other significance is to provide direction for drug addiction rehabilitation to integrate such variables as behavioral immunity, post-traumatic growth into mainstream interventions. Now to the conceptual framework. There were 3 key concepts that were looked at. 3 key concepts interrelate to influence the outcome behaviors. The outcome behaviors in the study was post-traumatic growth and post-traumatic depreciation. Those were the outcome behaviors. But the other variables, as you can see from the figure there, we have the situation variables, which include trauma antecedents, addiction and rehabilitation setting, perceived support, and then we have the variables that have to do with the individual himself or herself, which is self-stigma and personality. So I looked at behavioral immunity also. So these are the variables that were used. And in fact, this framework is based on the work of Doreen Wen, 1978, who used this in order to understand how individuals in community psychology cope with challenges. So these concepts, therefore, trigger the individual's deployment of psychological and social resources in order to deal with the challenges of substance use trauma. Now, I told you earlier that the positive wave psychology was very useful in this study. So it was very helpful in order to see how post-traumatic growth emerged from the domain of positive psychology. And number one is the first wave positive psychology movement, which criticized, that is with the work of Seligman and others, it criticized traditional psychology's overemphasis on dysfunction, disorder, and fixing problems. And then the second wave looked at the concepts of positive and negative psychology. Now, negative psychology in this case means the traditional view of psychology. Psychology has operated on the negative view all along until, even though some people would argue that the work of the humanistic psychologists had already been on board. However, they did not include the research base. And therefore, the proponents of positive psychology introduced the research in order to look at positive psychology. Now, but the second wave proponents say that the concepts of positive and negative psychology can coexist so that we can look at the dynamic integration and harmony between positive and adverse experiences. Now to the psychology of defense using behavioral immunity. The psychology of defense seeks to explain behavioral immunity within the context of infection avoidance. However, in the context of this study, it was imperative to explore behavioral immunity as a motivational system in addiction, and also to look at it as a precursor to trauma avoidance, because there's a lot of trauma avoidance among individuals suffering from substance use disorder. So I sought to look at how behavioral immunity can be helpful in order to look at substance use disorder growth. Now to the research methodology. The paradigm that was used in this study was pragmatism. And pragmatism often advocates for a non-singular understanding of reality. It does not lean on the positive nor the qualitative. It says, as long as it is helpful, it has practical significance, we can use it. So pragmatism was used. Then the design was convergent mixed method. The convergent mixed method suggests that you can collect data using the qualitative method and using the quantitative method, and then you see how they converge, bring them together, and see whether there is any fit between the quantitative and qualitative or any divergences, if there are. Then, to the sampling procedure. On the quantitative side of the study, the sampling procedure was census sampling, because I looked at all the participants that were found in the 9 rehabilitation centers that served as the places where I collected data from. And so anyone who was available, who admitted to participate in the study, as long as they met the criterion for the study, they were investigated. Then for the qualitative, it was purposive sampling. For the purposive sampling, 24 participants were interviewed up to theoretical saturation using grounded theory. And there were 2 focus group discussions, with one with the participants and then the other with the mental health experts. Now to the criteria that were used. The inclusion criteria, so participants who met the criteria were those who were addicted to any or a combination of psychoactive substances, substances that modify behavior, or those who had history of addictive behavior and they had not spent less than 1 year since the first presentation of symptoms, those who are enrolled in a rehabilitation facility and undergoing treatment for substance use disorders, those who are admitted into a treatment facility for inpatient rehabilitation. So those who were outpatients were not included. Those who are less than 18 years were not included. Those who were suffering from behavioral addictions were not included. And then participants who had not spent up to 1 year manifesting symptoms of substance use disorders. Now to the data collection. The data collection methods include, for the quantitative, we had those variables were measured using self-stigma questionnaire, the post-traumatic growth, post-traumatic depreciation, multidimensional scale for perceived social support, and then personality, which is measured using the BFI. Now, all these had been standardized. And in our study, I also decided to find out the psychometric properties, and I discovered that they were suitable for use. For the qualitative side, for the in-depth interview was used, which included semi-structured interview, developing semi-structured interview guides for behavioral immunity, post-traumatic growth, and then post-traumatic depreciation. We also interviewed individuals in 2 focus group discussions, participants, and then the therapists or the experts. And also we use grounded theory, which leans on abductive reasoning and the creation of analytic codes. So, data quality control. For the quantitative, the pre-test was done in order to make sure that all the instruments met the criteria for use in our study. Then for the qualitative, the credibility, transferability, confirmability, and dependability were observed. Now to the data collection procedure. The quantitative procedure obtained ethical clearance from the IRB. There was permission from facilities and informed consent from participants, recruitment of research assistants, administration of questionnaires and consent forms, retrieval of questionnaires. And then for the qualitative, it was also similar. Now to the data analysis strategies. I will simply tell you the softwares that were used for data analysis and the use of the SPSS version 26, IBM 2019, and the tests, simple linear regression, multiple linear regression, and correlational analysis. Then for the qualitative, the use of NVivo tool version 13, 2020, followed by the grounded theory steps, coding steps. And then I also observed data management strategies. Now, to the results. The results in this study, especially in the, this is the descriptive statistics. This indicates that there were more males involved in illicit substance use than females. And then we also have participants living with substance use disorder. The age bracket diagnosed with substance use disorder in this study are highest within the 31 to 36 years age bracket. And then we also have duration at facility. At the time of data collection, the highest number, the time that people had spent ranged from 3 to 5 months, and then the list was 12 to 24 months. That means some people had spent 1 year at the time of data collection, 1 year or more, while others had spent 3 to 5 months. Then the years spent in treatment in different facilities, we also have the highest number came from those who had spent 1 to 2 years, even though they may not have spent those times in the same facilities. They had traveled around from different times. Some of them went to some facilities at one time before they came to the present ones, where I met them. And then the years spent in addiction. People in all of the study, people had spent, most of them had spent above 5 years struggling with substance use disorders. Now, to the integration of the quantitative findings. So you will see that 8 hypotheses were tested. This is the first group. The hypothesis tested was that self-stigma will contribute significantly to participants' post-traumatic growth experiences. And the results indicated that self-stigma did not affect the post-traumatic growth. That means it didn't contribute to the post-traumatic growth experiences of individuals. The qualitative findings show that these experiences were actually depreciative experiences. They were negative experiences. One of the examples was that, in a quote, I felt I was useless. I felt I was a failure. That's one of those examples derived from the quotes. Then self-stigma significantly predicted participants' post-traumatic depreciation experience, and that is related to hypothesis 1, because since self-stigma did not predict participants' post-traumatic growth experiences but it now indicated that individuals experience more negative experiences. They experience negative experiences to the point that the effect size is 0.32. And this agrees with one of the concepts in the qualitative findings. That concept was depreciation pointers. And an example was, I don't want people to know that I have ever been in this place. I don't want people to know. Hypothesis 2A, which tested the relationship between participants' perceived social support and post-traumatic growth experiences, indicated that participants did not have there was no significant relationship between their perceived social support and post-traumatic growth experience. This may sound very interesting. Now, there are moments when we think that as long as participants have social support, then definitely they will experience post-traumatic growth, or they will have some growth experiences in in substance use, even though they are struggling with substance use disorders. But the correlational analysis that was derived indicated weak relationship. There was a weak positive relationship between perceived social support of significant others and family. So there were three subscales that were tested: perceived social support of significant others, perceived social support of family, and then of friends. But of the three, only two were, showed some weak positive relationship. That means that the support that we administer, whether as individuals or as parents or as friends, that support is perceived by participants, individuals with substance use disorders, in different ways. And some of them may not see it as qualitative enough to help them. So quality is very important. The quality of support is very significant if we are to look at perceived social support. Similarly, perceived social support did not make a significant contribution for participants' post-traumatic depreciation experiences, which agrees with the hypothesis 2A. Now for hypothesis 3A, this is where personality came in. Personality was measured. I told you that personality was measured before addiction set in and then after addiction had set in. Now, personality before addiction set in did not predict the post-traumatic growth of individuals, participants. There was no significant relationship between personality and post-traumatic growth as shown in the results there. You can see that it also has something to do with the qualitative value of depreciation pointers. One of the example of the quote says, yes, because I want everybody to be happy. That is why this problem started in the first place. I want everybody to be happy. Then hypothesis 3B indicates that before addiction set in, there was no significant relationship between personality and post-traumatic depreciation. However, there was a weak relationship between personality, subscale of extraversion, and post-traumatic depreciation. One of the pointers is that, yes, even though there was no significant relationship between personality and post-traumatic depreciation, now the quote is, initially I was introverted, but when I started using substances, initially I was introverted, but when I started using, I became extroverted. So we know that success rates are very, very low. Sorry, I have taken a very long time to say it. This is one example of a quote from the participants who participated in the focus group discussions. Hypothesis 4A looked at personality now at the time of study. Personality now did not produce any significant changes to participants' post-traumatic growth experiences, nor were there any notable relationships between personality and extroversion, agreeableness, conscientiousness, and all the subscales of personality. Challenges to rehabilitation. This is related to challenges to rehabilitation. He said, I didn't have any self-esteem again because of the negative things they were telling me I felt I was useless. I felt I was a failure. Then personality now did not produce any significant changes to participants' post-traumatic depreciation, nor were there any significant relationships. So the consequences of addiction is one of the concepts, one of the subcategories that was used in the qualitative study. It said, I didn't even have any self-esteem because of the negative things they were telling me. I felt I was useless. I felt I was a failure. Now to the qualitative findings. The qualitative findings derived 7 theoretical concepts. And these are avoidance behaviors, demographic background, significant others, depreciation pointers, rehabilitation, guiding philosophy, and growth pointers. All these were very important in explaining the concepts that were derived from data using the grounded theory. There were 7 concepts that were derived from the data. That's the qualitative analysis. Qualitative findings also, these are based on the focus group discussions. As they are listed there, religion and spirituality. This has to do with the themes that emerge from participants and then the themes that emerge from the therapists. Now to the qualitative findings again, objective 2. The other one was objective 1. All the 8 hypotheses were tested in objective 1. Now this is objectives 2 and 3. Objective 2 looked at the interrelation between post-traumatic growth and post-traumatic depreciation as substance use addicted related behavior outcomes. And these are the pointers based on the themes that were derived, which is PTG pointers, PTD pointers, and we have example of quotes there. Then objective 3 explored behavioral immunity in understanding substance use addiction related growth outcomes. We have the avoidance behaviors and fear response defining what this is. So avoidance behaviors and fear responses identified the behavioral immune system. This is objective 4, which sought to come up with a concept to explain growth processes in substance use disorders. As you can see, we have transactional systems. So I looked at the transaction. I looked at the linkages between the concepts that were derived, between the 7 concepts. And then I classified them into systems. We have the transactional system. These serve as the triggers. The transactional system serves as the triggers for, that affects or become the challenges for individuals with substance use disorders. And then in their response, so they respond based on fear and anxiety, and then the avoidance behaviors. Actually, this is very important here because the fear and anxiety and avoidance behaviors represent the behavioral immune system response, because we said earlier that behavioral immunity is a threat management system. And therefore, in order to manage the threat, individuals engage in the challenges that you see emanating from whether it's demographic background, rehabilitation, significant others, or the environment. And then for the behavior outcomes, we have 4 possible behavior outcomes in this study. Post-traumatic growth pointers, growth-related depreciation, post-traumatic growth post-traumatic, that's a mistake there, post-traumatic depreciation pointers, depreciation-related growth pointers. That means that as far as this model is concerned, post-traumatic growth can actually also lead to depreciation experiences. In the same way that depreciation experiences can help to trigger growth experiences. That's why we have all these possibilities as the outcome behaviors. And then, of course, everything that is done is based on a philosophy. So these are the characteristics of the substance use growth course framework. It is a composite of behaviors hinged on the participants' health frames of reference. Each component is functionally connected to the other, suggesting that substance use disorder-related growth is a continuous, progressive, and open system. Transactions are continually and progressively revised as a function of the distress and satisfaction thresholds at every step. Substance use disorder-related growth is therefore open to multiple outcomes of growth, and therefore they do not depend on this traditional this traditional element of two variables. I mean two constructs. Conclusions and contributions. The contributions to this study are the complex nature of PTG. So in this study, the complex nature of PTG growth is not something that can be easily pinned to one thing. Third level variables contribute to growth. And that's why we looked at perceived support. These are the third level variables, whether it's personality, perceived support, and other variables that we tested in the hypothesis. Then the contribution to strength research. Strength is continuously revised on a growth continuum rather than a permanent categorical scale. The exploration of behavioral immunity in substance use disorder research. Behavioral immunity is working as a substance use disorder-related defense system against the varying threats of trauma and depreciation to participants who are involved in substance use disorders. Then we also have been able to look at derivation of a theoretical framework, which indicates that the tenet of growth is a non-linear linkage of variables that have overall continuous implications for the individual and the collective social network. This is presented as presented in the figure. Now the limitations, methodological limitations. There are inherent flaws in the convergent mixed methods design, the individual diverse experiences, differences in developmental milestones. So people may experience growth based on maybe their developmental milestones and not necessarily because of substance use disorder growth. And therefore, we also chose the population which is limited to those who are in active rehabilitation, those who are attending rehabilitation as outpatients who are not included, as we indicated in our exclusion criteria. Inadequate sample size. If we are to make a generalization for the quantitative study, then we require more sample, which will help to enhance generalizability. The limitations in the scope was limited to one geographical area, which is the North Central, and just one region in the North Central zone. And then the theoretical scope was limited to just developing a theoretical framework. I didn't develop a grand theory. But but I looked at some of the initial steps that can be helpful in coming up with a grand theory. So that's a limitation. And then limitation in terms of the time. Time was limited to the doctoral program. Recommendations, research methodology improvement. There is need to improve rigor and make future research, perhaps longitudinal. And then there is also need to seek to utilize any of the sequential or complex designs that will provide more information to the relationship, the contribution from both quantitative and qualitative approaches. Then there is also need to target population. The population should extend to post-rehab. Sample size should be increased to improve generalizability. And then in improvement in scope, there is need to extend the geographical, ecological, and regional spread of the study in future studies. And then the development of a grand theory. There is need to extend theoretical propositions to develop a substantive theory of substance use disorder growth cause frame. The development of a systems framework. I just said that the systems framework will help to explain the multiplicity of factors that are indicated in substance use disorders. If we are simply thinking of few variables, then it will not help enough. But if we look at the interplay of different variables in explaining substance use disorder, especially the growth processes that are involved, then we need to develop a systems framework. And then further study on the psychology of strengths is also needed. These are the publications from this work. I am very grateful. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, James, for the presentation. We're now going to enter the second segment of our program today, and that's the engagement between the critical reader and the candidate. And as I mentioned earlier, our critical reader today is Professor David Kani Olema, who is from Ustema University. I hope I'm right. He's the Dean of the Faculty of Science and Education. And he also does so many other things. I've also learned that he also owns schools. So he's a serious educationist. He's also the president of Victims Voices, an organization, an international organization, but it's the president of the Ugandan chapter. We're going to take about a maximum of 60 minutes in this segment. So colleagues, join me to welcome Professor David to the podium and to take on the candidate. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I want to thank James very, very much for that presentation. James, thank you very much for
Thank you, sir.
Such a wonderful presentation.
Thank you, sir.
And I also want to take this opportunity to thank his supervisors, Professor Grace and Professor Paul. I have known these people as very serious scientists. Once upon a time, they appeared somewhere where I was, and we had very good interactions. And I also want to thank the school for inviting me for this interaction. This is going to be a simple interaction. James, I want to thank you so much for venturing in this area of psychology of strength and drawing from our strength to recover. That's a very, very important area. And I want to thank you so much for that one.
Thank you, sir.
Because many emphasize, as you've said, the weaknesses and forgetting that, our strengths internal can be used to step on for our recovery. And so a direction for us who are practicing here. Behavior immunity and behavioral immunity and drug addiction. That's a very simple question. Behavior immunity is a defense, right?
Yes, sir.
Against a threat. And in this case, the threat is sinking into substance use disorder, right?
Yes, sir.
And of the two, which comes first?
I'm sorry, Prof. Would you clarify that? The threat.
You are talking of behavior immunity. And when you go deep, why I'm asking these questions, when you go deep, the emphasis is more of substance use disorder. And it paints the picture that this behavior immunity comes to protect the person from remaining in the substance use disorder.
Very well.
So I asked that deliberately, of the two, which comes first?
Well, the one that kept coming, that kept recurring in this study is drug addiction related growth. I'm
Yes.
simply saying behavioral immunity can come in to help.
And so why didn't you start with SUD? Why did you start with this?
Okay. I saw post-traumatic growth or drug addiction related growth processes as dependent or outcome variables. And so anything that happens affects the drug addiction related growth responses of participants.
Yes, why I've asked that question is
Yes.
The substance use disorder appears to, trigger out that reaction from the way you've been talking.
Yes.
Not to say that this is wrong.
Yes, sir.
I just want us to understand this, because naturally we are wired to defend ourselves even before we fall in danger.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I wanted you to bring up.
Yes, sir.
We are naturally wired to defend ourselves before even trouble. And that's why we lock doors when we go to sleep. Is that okay? So you better take note of this. And,
Very well, sir.
I also have an issue here. You've presented the substance use disorder as having a singular antecedent, which you have emphasized as post-traumatic stress events. Why? Is that the only one, and why did you focus only on that?
No, sir. There were actually antecedents which have to do with maybe background, the history of trauma, and certain things that may have adverse consequences in the lives of the individuals. So it's not a single thing.
So why did you pick that alone? And that is going to take us to the choice of JOS.
JOS.
Yeah.
Well, I come from JOS actually.
Not yet.
But
very well. Before we go there, why did you zero down on post-traumatic experiences as the sole? The way you're presenting it, as it is the sole cause of substance use disorder. Why did you pick on that?
Yes, trauma, even though there have been debates, some scholars argue that drug addiction may be seen as a source of trauma. Others see it as a consequence of trauma. But the position that I took in this study is to see drug addiction as both a consequence and also a source of trauma in the lives of the individuals.
So you present it as actually the cause of the substance use disorder.
Yes.
And neglecting the other biological and other social factors that come in.
Okay.
I don't know how you're going to resolve it. However, in your analysis down there, you brought in those as well. That is the good news. To tell the audience, the science is thorough. I looked at it. The science is very thorough, and I'm very excited about it. But we want to understand. With him, we want to understand why that, and yet in the analysis you presented all those things. Why do you present it at the beginning as if that is the
okay?
Now let's go to why JOS.
JOS is a geographical, it's an old mining settlement actually. Mining activities started in JOS for as long as the colonial days. I think 19th century, actually, in the 19th century. And so there was population explosion into that city. Several mining activities, both within the center and the suburbs of JOS, took place. And that brought in so many people into the city. that along with that, people came with their various backgrounds. Some were, so there was a problem of not only the mining, but there was also a problem with land. And so there was a strife between indigenes and those who had come to settle to engage in mining activities. And so I decided to choose this because the recurrent crisis in Jos has been from 1994, at least the ones that have been recorded.
All right, so what is the current crisis?
The current
that you
one,
think triggers a substance use disorder? And that's the question
yes.
I'm trying to get to.
So the crisis is that actually with the population explosion, governance issues, behavior modification, managing the population. So there were issues that came up. And so many young people go into substance use in order to deal with the challenges of living.
Thank you very much. That is what I really wanted to come out there, that these are possible triggers,
Yes, sir.
okay, for substance use.
Yes, sir.
As they avoid the crisis.
Yes, sir.
And that didn't come out well, so I would want that to come out explicitly as you do that.
Yes, sir.
The interesting thing is I have seen, let me ask it there before we go to the other point.
Yes, sir.
Why did you use, that's why I still go back to, why did you use post-traumatic growth?
I am interested.
And did not substance use disorder growth, which eventually you presented at the end. What was your interest? Only the substance use as a result of the traumas, or irrespective of anything your interest was?
I used drug addiction or substance use disorder related growth just to signify that I was studying a population that had been diagnosed with substance use problems. So apart from just talking about substance use, these had gone beyond substance use to manifesting disorders, which were being treated in clinical facilities.
Right from the beginning, post-traumatic growth.
Yes.
As you study the recovery from substance use disorder.
Yes.
My question is, why didn't you use substance use disorder growth, which would cover for all the other causes? Why?
That can suffice, sir.
Hmm?
It can suffice.
Which can suffice?
Substance use disorder growth.
Okay, does substance use disorder growth exist?
Yes. Well, from the study, from the literature, from the available literature, substance use disorder growth. Okay, I understand. I'm sorry, Prof.
Well, it is okay. I picked this from the beginning. I've been asking this question from the time I started reading this work.
Yes, sir.
And that's why I started from the topic, which comes first. And then the emphasis through and through is post-traumatic, growth. And yet you want recovery for those struggling with substance use disorder. Why not straight substance use growth? which actually you presented extremely well. Later in your presentation, check your, if you have your book there, page 133.
Yes, sir.
See how you've done it. I was impressed at that. But I kept asking myself, why didn't you go there? Why did you go around and look at other things?
Page 33.
Page 133, I think it's 133.
Okay. It has to do with 133 is objective 2, but before then, hypothesis. Oh, okay.
That's objective 4.
Okay, sir.
Framework.
Yes, sir. Yes, to 138. Theoretical framework emerging from the data in understanding substance use, addiction-related growth, behavior outcomes.
Now, you presented extremely well there. Oh, you kept it for surprising at the end. Because you have really explained it there very well, I actually expected onset you to go that direction if that is the interest. But since it has come, then you need to explain why you came from the other side. Because it's finally there, now you need to explain yourself as to why you have come from that far. And so that will take us quickly to the instrument.
Yes, sir.
There's an instrument for that. There's an instrument for assessing substance use growth by Sarah somebody of 2016. That you left out and you had a different approach. Let me see what it is. Yes, a recovery process. The recovery process measure for substance use disorder. Ellison and group 2016. So that would get the substance use disorder progress very, very well. Now, your emphasis is on post-traumatic growth. You actually you reviewed one of our papers there with Senyonga and one of those on post-traumatic growth. But that applied to the post-traumatic growth per se. But now you're bringing this as a cause of substance use. So we need to harmonize a few things here. And we need to see how we work through it, because you have the data and you can explain it towards that direction. And then go to the end as to how we do the others. So this was the major thing. As I've said, the science is beautiful, but this point we need to harmonize it and seriously do that. So the methodology and all those, I looked at them very, very well. I was happy. Now population of 183. Okay.
Yes, sir.
9 rehabs. And then in your inclusion criteria, which is, I think it's on page 37.
Yes.
I think the traumatic, having experienced trauma is excluded. Is it in?
Having experienced trauma?
Yes, especially as you assessed the participants.
Okay. No, it was included, sir.
Is it there?
Because when I said those who were included should have manifested, ought to have manifested the disorder for not less than 1 year.
Manifested disorder of substance use.
Yes.
Not traumatic experience.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yes. The two things here. Yeah. Substance use disorder for some time. That one I agree with it 100%.
Yes, sir. That's what I meant, actually.
Yes, but the traumatic experience is not there.
Okay.
So you assumed that all who have substance use disorder must have experienced trauma. Is that so?
Okay. Well, the assumption for me is based on the fact that some scholars will say the person ought to have manifested it for not less than 1 year in order for growth to occur. I remember, I think Bullman talked about it, that they ought to have manifested it for not less than 1 year. So that substance use ought to become a trigger of growth when individuals have struggled. They have struggled to get away from the disorder. They have struggled to deal with it.
James, I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. You are avoiding my question. I agree with you 100%.
Yes.
In the inclusion. I'm wondering why you did not have the participant having had traumatic experience as part of your inclusion criteria.
Okay.
Because from the beginning, you strongly believed that, people, this substance use disorder is, caused by the other. I agree with that as well. It can cause, but it is not the sole cause.
Very well, sir. Very well.
So you didn't have it here, and how did you arrive at the post-traumatic, So those ones you go and search. I know you've done so many things there. There must be somewhere.
Yes.
Now on, as we move on, page 35.
Yes.
In your qualitative sample, you were justifying the saturation level. You're justifying, the appropriate number to interview because there is a variation in qualitative. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Agreeable position. Yes. And I think instead of writing 20 to 30, you wrote 2030. I think that's just a simple typo.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
A very simple one. You need to check it. And it can be very dangerous. How do you interview 2030 people?
Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, yes. I've talked about the tools, the other tools for still the same question. Trauma antecedent was not part of the inclusion criteria. How does it become a major variable, sub-variable, whatever it is, and the checklist to develop the theory towards substance use disorder growth? See that page 46? You've not had that. I've already told you where you can get it. The assumption here was you quickly went for that is because those tools are readily available. So,
actually, the trauma antecedents questionnaire, I think that's what you're talking about.
yes,
Okay.
the issue of the trauma tools not being, rather not appearing in the checklist. I'm still talking about that.
Very well, sir.
Yeah.
Can I say something? I don't know if you want.
You actually, but
Okay, sir. Actually, the trauma antecedents questionnaire was not used as a standardized scale. It was actually a clinical scale. That's why it didn't go through. For those who had designed that, they didn't use it they didn't come up with any psychometric properties for that particular scale, and they didn't use it as a standardized scale. Just a clinical.
all right.
Thank you.
So can we go to your results, demographics?
Yes.
I told you the deeper science I did look at was very good. Your population is 183, right?
Yes, sir.
And you used census.
Very well.
Everybody was included, right?
Yes, sir.
Good, but you've accounted for only 138.
Yes, sir.
Where are the 45?
Apart from missing system, which was not captured, the rest.
Let's go there.
Okay.
Because I included the missing persons to make the 138.
Yes, sir.
Check. So you might have to check your data.
Yes, sir.
In the results that you presented here.
Yes, sir.
That is
it 70 or 71 or so? I think. Yes. That's for the descriptive.
We got it?
Yes, sir.
What page is it?
Page 71 is the descriptive for the demographics. Then page 72 was for the duration at the facility.
All right, so in your presentation there, I see you've accounted for 138.
Yes, sir.
Including the missing one.
Yes.
So 44 are missing to make the 188.
Yes, sir.
So where have they gone? Better look for them.
Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you.
And then a very interesting results here. Others are obvious results. And in the demographics,
yes, sir.
Cited. So now let's talk our psychology here. When we get to the demographic characteristics of those who, this thing of male being more is obvious, okay?
Yes, sir.
Very, very obvious in many cases. And I got very interested in the age seems to be more obvious. Then let's go to education level. And those who have degrees seem to be the most affected.
Yes.
And what would we expect as people here? Would expect actually people who are not educated, people who are, who ended up in primary or secondary school, though they are there, but the highest in your case is
HND and degree.
have degrees. So you are from Jos.
Yes, sir.
Why do you think? No, we just want to find something. Maybe that will help in our rehabilitation and the training.
Well, I think that people are very.
That will feed into why Jos. Is that okay?
Okay. People, especially that age bracket, that had the highest prevalence of substance use disorders, that age bracket is.
Let's leave the age. Let's
okay, sir. Okay. There are people who get educated early. Early education is something that if you find someone who asks them about what they want to do, the issue of entrepreneurship, there is less interest there. I know one of my brothers is here. They are more familiar with the entrepreneurship, economic activities. But we don't have so much economic, people are not engaged so much in economic activities, so they choose to study.
Okay.
Until they reach.
James.
Yes.
You take it towards why Jos. Is that okay?
Okay.
That age group and the educated, there are people who have degrees. Why are there many? And what did you tell us about Jos? A mining city, isn't it? And
yes.
Many people come there. Maybe the degrees are missed or whatever it is. And others maybe take in that direction. Possibly frustrations there. I'm just deliberately checking our psychology in that. And now as I go towards the end of yes, we talked about your framework for a substance growth
frame.
Disorder frame already. I want you to bring the aspects there in the fore so that your background and all those point towards the substance use disorder as your emphasis. Is that okay?
Okay, sir.
And okay, one author in this work that really impressed you so much? Whose work influenced this one more than any other?
Well, are you asking for one or more?
One. I'm asking for a major one. If you have one major one, just give us. Why do you want to give many? I know you have cited so many there, but one that will just come to your mind.
It's the proponents of positive psychology, from where post-traumatic growth is. So post-traumatic growth is derived from the science of positive psychology. And the author that impressed me so much is Seligman. Seligman.
Great. So one, okay, that's the cover process there. Okay. Give advice to those who are working with the in the rehabilitation after this study, what fruitful advice would you give them?
One of the things that I want to emphasize is that treatment approaches should be more focused on, should be broad-based. People who are treating individuals with substance use disorders should focus more on both the strength, integrating the strength and the deficit, the issues that have to do with deficit, integrating them, blending them in order to, because it's something that is already, we can't deny that negative experiences are there and they will always be with us. But we also need to blend the approaches so that as someone who is treating those with substance use disorders, the blending approach is very critical, very crucial.
Now you've taken me to your an analysis on post-traumatic growth and post-traumatic depreciation together.
Yes, sir.
One is the negative end.
Yes, sir.
And the other one is the positive.
Yes, sir.
And you analyze them together, what did you find?
Well,
I expected confusion. So what did you expect?
Of course, I saw there were those who had experiences that were negative and experiences that were positive, but the positive seemed to be overshadowed more by the negative, except I probed as the interviewer. So when I probed, then they were able to give me some areas of progress they have had in the course of living with the disorder, even though they didn't believe that that was progress. Participants did not believe that that was progress. Even if someone who has been struggling with substance disorder has maybe not taken, has not used substances for 1 year, they will still tell you, I didn't progress. So there seems to be some blinding effect of depreciation on growth, as I saw it.
And the way you're talking is like you deliberately prompted for growth.
Yes.
And so will you convince me that, that result is very independent? That, the growth aspect is.
Yes, sir.
All right. So he has, James has reported himself as a positive psychologist. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Prof.
That is enough. Thank you very much. You've done very well.
Thank you, Professor.
Thanks so much, Prof, for that wonderful engagement. Probably another round of applause. James, how do you feel so far?
I have 2 bottles of water here.
That's so nice. Okay, so members, we are going to the third segment of the agenda today, and that's the engagement by the different panelists with the candidate. And in the room, we have Dr. Samuel Ouma, we have Dr. Retji, we have Dr. Hamis Musanje, we also have Professor Peter Aguma, and online we have Dr. Joyce Nasamba. She wasn't able to be here physically because she's unwell, but she's following through. So probably we limit our engagement to about not more than 10 minutes each. Yeah, thank you. So probably Dr. may go first. Farouk, do they also have to come here or they can stay there?
Thank you very much, James, for your presentation.
Thank you.
It was very interesting to follow what you had to say from the beginning up to the very end. Like you said, there's not so many people who are examining post-traumatic growth through the lenses of positive psychology. So I came in with that interest of, I want to hear positive psychology at its best. I don't want to say I'm disappointed, but I have a few questions. Generally, one would think that if you're going positive psychology, then you don't start negative. You don't start problematizing the issue that you're examining. So looking through your background and problem statement, which to me should have read solution statement. Oh, yes. So I saw that and I was like, okay, there's on one hand, you had an inclination to positive psychology, but in actual practice, you are being overwhelmed by what is common. So you want to be clear about that if you are going to convince your readers that you're using positive psychology should cut across your work. Don't problematize solutions, because we hoped to see the solution. I hoped to see, for example, the people who are making it in rehabilitation centers, regardless of the challenges that they're facing. So that's one. You do a mixed methods, convergent mixed methods study, and you also do grounded theory. That from the onset is very courageous. Courageous in a sense that you want to converge things as well as develop them. And that's what grounded theory would have us believe, that you actually hoped to develop a theory from the work that you're doing. But yet you're doing convergent mixed methods. And even in the convergent mixed methods, you go on to begin integrating your findings from the point of analysis. You showed one of the slides showing your findings side by side. Now that could have been an attempt to fishing, trying to have your qualitative work speak to the quantitative work early enough without evidence. Because when you projected the qualitative findings in support of the quant, definitely one of the things that came out was one of the participants saying, initially I was an introvert, now I'm an extrovert. And as a psychologist, I kept asking, what question was this person responding to give you such clearly articulated terminologies in personality? What question was that? But even if we knew the question, having picked up that one quote to support a quantitative finding runs risks of credibility. Because again, for purposes of fishing, one could easily do that. I had questions around PTG and substance use. The question of which one came first, trauma or substance use. In your write-up, you highlight substance use related trauma. So as a practicing clinical psychologist, I kept wondering, what kind of trauma would this be? Would it be trauma that comes when someone is intoxicated and they are falling off and they're getting injured and therefore traumatized? But you go on to say this is actually trauma right from childhood in part of your work, those who have read your work.
Yes.
So how much of that is then transferred to substance use disorder related trauma? I think it's quite confusing. It was confusing for me, a trained clinical psychologist. I don't know how much confusing it might be to someone who is not trained clinical psychologist. So I think you would do better to try and rectify that.
Thank you, sir.
I don't want to spoil the party. Yes. How your quantitative results speak or are explained by your qualitative is something you need to do well on. If you are doing grounded theory in a mixed method, one would think that the quantitative results are integrated in the qual. And I don't see that. At least I didn't see that in the framework at the end. I didn't see how the quant results were presented to support the theory. So that is, for me, that's a big thing, because you are having your reader believe that this theory that you have developed has come from both strands of your work. But yet, it seems to me like you heavily relied on the qual when it came to the theory, to the grounded theory. That, James, needs to come out very clearly, really, because years from now, someone might pull that, might come for you seeking explanation. For this positive psychology work, again, like the reader said, would expect the positive psychology actually manifesting at the end. I found that your work, even with your own confession that you tried to probe for PTG, I found your work heavy on depreciation. So is it still positive psychology? Maybe you can answer that before we,
Okay.
if I finish. Is it still positive psychology at the end?
Well, if you look at the waves, the three waves of positive psychology currently, especially the second wave and the third waves, but especially the second wave of positive psychology, they speak about the integration of the positive and the negative existing side by side. So when I speak about depreciation, if you look at the possibilities for growth to occur, depreciation can also trigger growth. Growth can also slide into depreciation. Those are the possibilities that I saw in the work.
Yes, when the critical reader asked who among the authors did you like the most, you said Selkman, and that would be in the first wave of positive psychology. So how does Selkman remain the most important author, yet you have departed from them to go to the third wave? But that's something you can consider to
Very well,
really
Thank you.
think about. As I finish, I just made comments really to improve your work. It's not
Yes,
that
sir.
we are, like I said, not to spoil the party. When you look at, again, your findings and how they are presented and how best then they answer these questions that you set out, I'm just wondering, do you think you have answered those questions well? When you look at the findings as presented vis-a-vis the questions or research objectives that you set out to, do you feel you answered those questions well?
Maybe.
Well, that's a good political answer. It's again, because I asked that question because at the end of the day, like the critical reader asked what actually would be the contribution to your work. You went on to make some assertions which are not supported by your findings. The recommendations that you gave for what clinicians should do, those who are attending to people with these problems should do, that response has nothing to do with your findings. Whereas it is politically correct, it has to be grounded in your findings because that is your contribution to the study.
Yes.
So thank you. Thank you very much. I'll continue to look forward to the responses.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, James, the man from Jos.
Thank you, sir.
I also want to thank my colleagues that have come first, the critical reviewer and Dr. Sam Ouma. You know, when the defense has a very thorough critical reviewer, the questions become fewer. So I had 4 pages of questions, but I think I'm now remaining with 1. So the job is going to be easier. I'm not a clinical psychologist, so don't expect me to go into the technical questions. I'll mainly stick to the methodology. Now, starting with, you said you used population-based sampling, stroke census-based sampling, and you had 180, 87? 83, yeah. So you take note that substance use disorders are a major challenge in Nigeria and in Jos. You also talk about the many efforts that have been put forward for rehabilitation. And it turns out that from all the 9 centers, the total population was 183.
Yes.
Does it still remain a critical problem in the area?
It is.
Why?
Well, we had a population of 183, but those who agreed to participate and those who didn't want to participate, you know, so it brought the number to 138 now. But substance use disorder is still it's still a problem that is vicious in all respects. It is affecting families, societies on a larger scale. So substance use disorders is still a problem.
Okay, I will go with your word, but based on the numbers, it doesn't feel like the magnitude is as big as you make it sound. Sometimes I feel like the problem was amplified.
Well, based on a study,
yeah,
I think 39.1% to 49% use they are identified to use substances in Jos alone. The prevalence, 39.1 to 49%.
Okay, James, that can be a point of reflection. Just to move on to the objectives. I feel like the way the qualitative objectives or the objectives which were being answered by grounded theory, the way they were stated, they were very hard to understand or even point to a qualitative direction. Was that a new writing style or?
Okay, sir. I will look at them.
Okay, you will. No worries about that. Then also, I'm trying to cut out whatever was answered already. In the exclusion criteria, you left out the outpatients, right?
Yes, sir.
Maybe you could talk about that.
Okay. When individuals have problems, they can decide to go as inpatients or as outpatients. Those who are treated, those who are admitted and treated in the rehabilitation settings are admitted on the basis of staying there for some time. But outpatients come in and they meet with the experts at the outpatient level, and then they leave. They are not admitted for treatment or rehabilitation.
Okay, so since the study was struggling with numbers already, what would be the loss of including both inpatients and outpatients?
Including both, well, that would have been maybe increasing the focus of the study. That will expand the scope, especially the population of those who use, as inpatients, and then those who are being treated as outpatients. That will expand the population. I wasn't able to do that.
Okay, I can move on to the next. Somewhere in your book, I read that you conducted a focus group discussion with caregivers, stroke therapists.
Okay, yes, the formal caregivers, yes.
Is that something in your book? You agree to that?
Yes, formal caregivers. That's the therapists,
Yes.
and or the experts.
Okay.
Yes.
So that was answering which objective?
That was to strengthen the other findings.
So to get it right, you collected data that wasn't answering any objective, but just to strengthen findings.
Okay. Okay, sir.
No, I'm just trying to understand from your perspective, because I'm imagining, why would you go ahead and collect data from a group of participants that were never part of the study participants? So how do you feel about that?
I thought that maybe they would strengthen the findings of the quantitative and qualitative.
They would have through triangulation, but essentially they weren't part of your participants. Even when you're describing your participants, you never mention caregivers anywhere. Then along the way in the book, we see you conducting a focus group with them. And then as you present data, you don't present them anywhere. So where was their strengthening used? Or that was just a wasted effort?
I presented them in the focus group discussion.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Then talking about grounded theory, the way you use grounded theory and the outcome, you told us in the end, the contribution was the conceptual framework, or was a framework, not a theory. So there is no theory that was evolved from your work.
Yes.
Do you think it was necessary to use grounded theory in this work?
It was necessary.
Why?
Because grounded theory, one of the advantages of using grounded theory is to speak about what you know from the data. It is data, it is derived from the data, not necessarily to come with a theory, but to derive theory from data. At least that's one of the advantages of.
Yes, and did you derive the theory from the data?
No, I didn't derive a grand theory.
Did you need to use grounded theory?
Yes, perhaps for future work.
For future work, okay.
Yes.
So, okay, that's interesting. Okay, moving away from that, being mindful of time. There's a table which you flagged here, which was results, quantitative results. I don't know if you can go to that table.
Okay.
I was shocked that within that table, it was presenting the number of people with substance use disorders.
Okay, that's
it's part of the results.
Yes. Okay.
Is it the one?
Okay,
yeah, it is the one.
Okay.
Participants living with substance use disorders.
Yes.
Where is the 30 to 35 category? There was no one.
31 to 36?
No, 30 to 35. That was shocking.
Okay, no. I actually, it was just to accommodate this
Okay, it's
as
20,
a summary,
20, 25
but
to
it's
30.
in the work. Yes, sir.
Come again?
It's in the work. I have 18 to 24, 18 to 24, then 25 to 30, 31 to 36, and 37 and above.
Okay, so why doesn't 25 to 30 appear here? There was no one.
No, they were there.
They were there.
Yes.
It was just.
I was just interested in talking about the extreme values, actually.
No, I don't think so. You were interested in, did you just forget them, or you were interested in talking about extreme values? Because we need to separate facts from opinions.
Okay. I forgot to include them. Thank you.
Now we move on. Okay, that's it. Thank you, James.
Thank you so much, sir.
Hello, James.
Yes.
How are you?
I'm fine, doctor.
Still fine?
For now.
Now, you look very fine. Keep drinking some water, you'll be okay.
Yeah.
James, I appreciate your work. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you.
I am largely interested in this study because I have worked in an outpatient, the people you didn't care for. Yeah. You focused on those that, and then there was a question that I think the critical reader asked you, and you said, it depends. People can come in whenever they want. Actually, people don't choose when to go to rehab or outpatient. It depends on what's going on for them and what stage they are at in terms of use, abuse, and addiction. Okay?
Yes.
So just for you, I know you know it, but it's just that podium.
Thank you.
So, James, this dissertation is really strong, and the ideas are very original, and potentially they will support what is out there in terms of research in the area. Particularly, you provide an attempt to extend behavioral immunity into substance use disorder rehabilitation, and to conceptualize PTG and PTD, which are rarely, especially in the African setting, they haven't been as much explored. And also you bring them into terms of coexistence experiences rather than simple positive and negative opposites.
Yes.
So I'll stick to what I prepared because I really took time to read your work to save time. So the proposed frame, the SUD-GC frame that you come up, it's very significant and brings a good contribution to the area. But these are things I would like you to just focus on even as you make some changes in your work or improvements.
Yes.
The issues around construct validity of behavior immunity. Please pay attention. The other is whether qualitative methodology genuinely satisfies constructivist grounded theory requirements. And one of the panelists has already asked that about, engaged you in that, especially the theoretical sampling and theory development. I think Dr. Hamis was asking you whether there's a theory that has been developed. You said no, but it seems your goal was in that direction when you started off with this study. True or false? True. Okay. The justification for convergent mixed methods. You gave it a label, but as we go through the work, you have to struggle to keep bringing it up. So please pay attention so that it's more grounded as you make your corrections.
Yes.
Then the retrospective measurement of personality, and I'll give you a question later on around that. The relatively modest reliability findings, and that discussion has also come up. Okay. Then the casual language from across sectional design, and also the causal relationship in there. So it's casually presented, but also the causal relationship doesn't seem very clear. The extent of which the frame that you've come up with represents a genuine new theoretical contribution rather than a synthesis of existing concepts. So just some reflection points in that way. So, James, if you remove all the supporting detail, so things I've talked about, things everyone has talked about, and you ask yourself what this dissertation has added to the science of, you said you introduced yourself as an applied social scientist. Fancy? Yeah.
Yes.
That we did not know before. What is your single most defensible original contribution? And what evidence in your dissertation, not outside, no assumptions, gives us the greatest confidence in that contribution? You can respond.
Well, I think from what I explained earlier, one of the contributions that I think I am very happy with, I'm very happy with, is that I have seen that substance use disorder is it is composed of a multiplicity of factors that need to be understood, especially when we want to look at the growth processes that are involved. So for me, let's look at I want to say, let's look at the systems framework or systems approach to looking at substance use disorder growth. Let's look at the systems framework, which will take into consideration the complex nature of the variables that are implicated in substance use.
So you think that would be satisfying to the people in JOS if they hear that as the main contribution from your study?
I think so.
You can see them dissatisfied? Eh? Thank you, James. But reflection, because at the end of the day, James, this is important for us as an academic body, but the consumption of this work is for out there. So it has to make sense. It has to be simplified. They need to make sense of what James is saying. Okay? So James, something about your cross-sectional design versus growth processes. What's the definition of a cross-sectional design? Do you have a quick definition?
The cross-sectional design would look at variables that cut across the population or sample, as it were. That means there are different characteristics. There is no uniformity. There is no uniformity when it comes to those demographics. So demographics, experiences need to be uniform. It needs to cut across the different segments, whether the segment is age or whether it is other maybe background.
Okay, James.
Yes.
Thank you for trying. Can I read for you some bits that you skipped? And that also informs why your study took the direction it took in some places. Okay?
Yes.
So it's an observational approach, research design that analyzes data from a population at a single specific point in time. And it can act like a photograph, capturing a population's characteristics, behaviors, or health outcomes, all at once without tracking individuals over time. Not the last part, tracking individuals over time. So when you think about your design versus growth processes and how you presented it and how you wrote it in your book, it describes growth as dynamic, continuous, nonlinear, evolving, yet your empirical study is cross-sectional. How can you legitimately make claims about the trajectory or process of growth? And what would a longitudinal study need to demonstrate before you could claim that the SUDGC frame describes an actual developmental trajectory?
Okay. Well, I know that if I have to do a longitudinal study, that means I have to follow over time, different time frames.
Okay, James, do you want to just note that for your reflection? Okay.
Yes.
As you make some changes and improvements in your work.
Yes. Yes.
Just to strengthen your work.
Yes.
Yeah, that's why some of those things are coming through.
Yes. Thank you.
Personality. I have something about the retrospective personality measurement. The way it was presented and how you actually asked your participants to present and talk about their personality could have challenged them. So you asked them to report personality before the addiction, true or false?
I did.
And then their current state.
Yes.
Okay. So the before addiction measure is retrospective, isn't it?
Yes.
So I'm thinking about myself before I
became addicted.
Okay. So this actually introduces a possibility of recall, isn't it? And
Yes.
reconstruction bias. Do you see that happening?
Very well.
Okay. So are we sure that these people were actually reporting what's going on currently or what happened some time back? And how sure were you as the researcher that they were giving you their current understanding or reconstructing who they were before the addiction? How sure were you that for whatever you were trying to find?
I wasn't sure because of the biases that would have been introduced from the past to the present. So there may have been some bias in their responses, maybe introducing their experiences in the past and carrying forward to the present, or vice versa.
Mm.
I agree with that. Those biases.
Okay. So
Yes.
did you see that as you carried out the study, or you see it now?
I see it now.
What stopped you from seeing it then?
Actually, when I was looking at some of these studies on personality, one of the challenges one of the critiques that was presented was that personality may actually not be properly captured, especially among substance use participants. It may not be a reflection of something that is consistent, because substance use may tend to make their characteristics maybe to be transitional rather than being definite. If someone reports about some personality characteristic in the past, maybe it is transient. It's not consistent with their personality in the past because of some of those challenges.
Okay, so James, I'm going to give you homework, okay?
Yes.
As you make changes in your study, as you make improvements, whatever happens after today, I would like you to read about personality and think about it in terms of your study, okay? Does personality change? Is it constant? So I would like you to have that reflection as a psychologist as you think about the study as well.
I will do that.
Okay. So I had 31 questions for you. But in the interest of time, James, I'll give you the last one.
Okay.
And some have been captured by others that came before me. Culture So we know that today, every time that we talk about anything or we are doing any study or work, we want culture. Because that is pretty.
Right now, already.
Those are people happy for you, eh? So, James, your dissertation makes a strong argument that Western post-traumatic growth and positive psychology models may not transfer directly to African collectivist contexts. Do you agree?
Yes.
That's what your dissertation says.
Yes.
Do you agree as the researcher?
I agree.
You know, sometimes the dissertation may say something and the researcher says something else.
I agree.
Okay. So, however, the actual measurement strategy largely relies on established Western developed instruments. Okay?
Yes.
And you argue convincingly that PTG needs to be culturally contextualized. How did you ensure that the constructs measured by all those constructs that you used retained the same meaning in the Nigerian cultural context?
I didn't examine that. I didn't give time to look at the cultural implications of PTG within the context of my research.
I'm talking about the scales that were measured,
yes.
we were using to measure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even though I used those scales that were developed by Western scholars,
yeah,
but I didn't look at the cultural implications.
Okay. So at this level, as a PhD student, for any study you're doing now or later, culture needs to be centered. Okay.
Yes.
So that could be something you could add to the limitations of your study.
Thank you.
Thank you, James. I'll stop there. Thank you for your responses.
Thank you so much.
Thank you much. Thank you very much, presenter.
Thank you, Professor.
Yes. Right from the outset, I must say that I have seen growth in you. You remember when we first interacted?
Yes,
talked about this topic. You were very far, but this morning I am very pleasantly surprised.
Thank
so,
you, Professor.
Keep it up. These
Thank
comments are aimed at even making you better.
Thank you.
Don't feel bad.
Very well, sir.
Yes, also our critical reviewer, I can see change in you. So it seems there was, is it a coincidence or what? Because last time we interacted, you were a PhD student here. You remember? And you used to visit us, you used to visit psychology, you had colleagues. Yeah, so now you are a professor like me. So you are welcome, and welcome you to the School of Psychology. School of Psychology has also grown. By that time, I think it was an institute or department. Yes, the same goes to our supervisor, Professor Banjirana. One of my early students in psychology. We can see growth in you. Now you are a professor like me. So I think all this is relevant to the topic.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. I cannot mention Professor Chibanja because that is one of our own. Yes, introduction. Very few people have talked about introduction, and I find the introduction not well done. Especially, you didn't tell us about the theory. The theory. What theory have you applied to this study? It was not clear. So just write it down, don't answer.
Yes,
when
sir.
you are improving, we need to see a theory. PhD studies are theoretically based or theoretically guided.
Yes.
Yeah, so when you are reviewing, bring that one out.
Yes.
The problem statement is not well tuned. It is focusing on other things, but it is not focusing on growth, post-traumatic growth. A good problem should focus on the dependent variable. Yeah. So when you are revising, make sure that you make the problem, research problem sharp.
Yes, sir.
Going to the specific objectives, I find disharmony between them, especially the first objective.
Okay.
The first objective is that a tangent. You could remove it and do the study without any problem. Because for it goes back, it is looking at the causes. You want to establish the causes of SAD, substance use disorder. Yes, I thought that could have been ignored.
Thank you.
Yeah. So that is something about the introduction.
Yes.
Let me go to the methodology. The theory about the use of focus groups. I don't see any theory there.
Okay, sir.
You are handling focus groups as if it is something simple. Focus groups, they have a lot of theory, how to use them. Huh?
Yes, sir.
For example, how many focus groups do you conduct?
Okay, sir.
How many? Tell us now.
There were 2.
2?
Yes, sir.
That falls short. According to the theory of focus groups, 3, minimum is 3.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes, sir.
Then, how many were in each group? Each focus group, how many?
The first one with participants had 7 people. And the second with the experts, the formal caregivers, had 8 people.
8 people.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's okay. Focus groups can be from 6 up to 12
Okay,
per
sir.
group. So you have passed that one.
Thank you, sir.
How were they recruited?
Okay. The focus group participants?
Yes.
Okay. Purposive. It was purposive.
Okay, let me end it at that. But there is a lot that you need to write.
Yes,
about focus groups, how they were selected, how many they were. And by the way, focus groups should be categorized. Males alone, females alone.
Okay.
Are we clear?
Yes, sir.
Never mix. And they should be separated along age also. Because if they are women and you are mixing the 20-year-old women with the 80-year-old women, so these young ones might not talk. So we normally separate them along gender and age.
Okay, sir.
Yes, for your results to be believed.
Yes.
Yes, let me talk about post-traumatic growth. You tell us that they had counseling also. So where is the growth coming from? Is it coming from counseling? Or they could even recover without counseling. What does theory tell us about post-traumatic growth? Do you need to be counseled first, or you could recover on your own? I think you need to read that one.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Inclusion criteria. You say that these participants should have had symptoms with them for 12 months.
Yes, sir.
But yet in your presentation, we see people with participants with who had 4 months, 6 months, which we find funny.
Okay, sir.
I think they were telling us a lie. Okay?
Thank you, sir.
So you harmonize your inclusion criteria.
Yes, sir.
And exclusion criteria.
Thank you.
Then about sample size. You tell us you started with around 180 something and you ended up with 130. Is that correct?
Yes, 138.
Aha. So you are losing about 50 participants. Huh?
Yes, sir.
That is too much. It tells us about the validity and reliability of your study. It shows us that maybe this study was not interesting. And to get good data, the participants must be interested. Are we together?
Yes, sir.
Yes, so this study could just be nullified. Because if you lose 50 participants like that, it means there's something wrong with the study.
Yes.
So sample size, it tells us about the validity of the study. Those who participated, those who are willingly participating.
Yes, sir.
Instruments, you didn't sing the instruments. These are things that you enjoyed administering, but you didn't tell us their names, who developed them. Huh? So you didn't do well in telling us the instruments that he used.
Yes, sir.
Did you translate them?
I didn't.
You didn't?
They
were in English?
Yes. The participants understood.
Understood?
Yes.
How did you know that they understood?
They spoke it.
Yes?
They spoke it. They communicated it when we were talking with them.
There was no pretesting. Hey. To know that, to confirm that, you need to ask a few. Okay. Look at these instruments and tell me whether you understand.
Okay, sir.
And they suggest corrections.
Yes, sir.
Yes, so that is something about instruments.
Thank you, sir.
Trauma. There is no evidence that your participants were traumatized. Can you defend yourself on that at least? No evidence at all that they were traumatized. Give us evidence.
Well, I think the evidence was born from the fact that when I administered the antecedents, trauma antecedents questionnaire, there were a series of issues that were mentioned. None of them failed to mention some of these traumatizing events.
Yes, okay.
So they were exposed to.
Yes, we need a table here in your presentation.
Okay, sir.
We need a table about traumatizing events,
okay, sir,
that these people experienced.
Yes, sir.
Analysis. In your analysis,
yes,
you have left out a host of variables, a host,
yes, sir,
background, demographic factors,
okay,
duration in counseling, a facility type,
yes, sir,
and so forth. In your analysis, you want to see the impact of that, of all those variables,
yes, sir,
on what you are looking at as a dependent variable.
I will do that.
So that's why you will have problems in discussing your findings, because you collected a lot of data and you have not used all the data in the analysis. I'm talking about the effect of extraneous variables.
Okay.
Maybe you need to read another homework. I read about extraneous variables.
Yes.
And how to include them in the analysis.
I will.
For example, there was no issue of the baseline. You are talking about growth. But growth from what? How did you know that this one has grown, this one has not grown? Because of the things you are correlation or correlation. No. You can correlate nothing and get a correlation. Yeah? What is the starting point to know that this one grew, this one didn't grow, or this one regressed? You see that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, so you need to convince us that really there was growth, or there was no growth, or there was deterioration.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
I will do that.
in the analysis, some of the instruments are multidimensional. In the analysis, this should come out.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I'm about to finish. Personality has already been mentioned. Members, it is very difficult that somebody's personality will change after 4 months. It can't happen.
Okay, sir.
So that one is a lie. You have a homework on that. Personality is relatively permanent. Maybe what you are talking about are symptoms. Because these are drug abusers, you see the change in character. You see, those are symptoms. They are no longer remembering well. You can't say there is a personality change, but rather these are symptoms of substance abuse.
Okay.
So that one, the concept of personality is very hard to believe, and the way you measured it is also not scientific enough. Yes. Yes. So the contribution of your study at a PhD should be glaring enough. But you can see members don't know. They don't have takeaways. You have not given us like 3 to 5 key contributions. So you need to improve that area.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so make it a separate section in your thesis. Yes. Contributions of the study.
Yes, Professor.
Yes, recommendations are also weak. Yeah, they are not coming out to address the practice on the ground. Interventions that could be used at different levels are not mentioned. Methodological recommendations are weak. For example, you are not talking about two group designs, controlled studies. We don't want somebody to repeat a study in the same way you did, yet you have these shortfalls. So in this area, I think controlled designs, RCTs, randomized controlled trials, could do a better job, even including longitudinal studies, as you have already mentioned. But otherwise, we are giving all these comments to make you even grow
very well
higher.
Professor. Yes.
So take them with interest.
Yes.
And personally, I think I'm impressed. I'm beginning to believe that really you might end up taking our degree. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor.
Dr. Joyce is online, and I think she has just a few comments to make.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello.
Continue. We can
Yeah,
hear you.
thank you, Dean. Thank you, Dean. Hello, James. I appreciate the effort that you have put into this work. I also thank you for the clear presentation that you have made. I really followed through properly, at least for presentation purposes. Thank you very much. You know, being one of the last people to comment, I would like to say that, of course, most of what would have been my questions and concerns have been tackled by colleagues, but I will also have something small to add. I observed while reading your work that your research on community mental health, the issue of community mental health, is addressing a real gap. It's a real gap. It's a pertinent issue in our society, and I also believe back in Nigeria. So I would want to know how your work will inform policy on this issue back in Nigeria, because it can't be a real gap, something in society, and as a PhD student that everybody is looking forward to, you have been doing this research and there is nothing to do with policy. So please, maybe as you do your comments, I suggest you think about it. A lot has been said about theory, but I would also guide or love to know that you are able to link theory and methodology. Yes, you had a lot of data I've seen, and also you had findings, but that weaving those findings so that they inform the grounded theory that you said you used is a bit weak. So in your revision, please, at least to have a strong thesis and strong work, you at least need to clarify the link between your theory and methodology so that you can make a strong contribution, not just a descriptive aspect. Otherwise, I had concerns with at first with conceptualization and also the problem, but my colleagues have ably addressed that to you. I request that you kindly attend to them. Otherwise, I thank you so much for the effort once again. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you.
Anything to say about her comments?
No, I will work on her comments.
All right, thanks, Dr. Joy, for that. James, if
Yes.
you feel like you have stood for too long and you can no longer have energy in your legs, you can sit, but otherwise.
Okay.
Or if you feel you're strong enough, I think we still have like 10 minutes.
No problem.
Colleagues, now we move to observations, comments, and questions from the audience. Those who are online, if you have questions or comments, you can just type in the chat and we shall be able to read them to James. So any questions for James or comments from the members in here? I mean, from us here, any questions?
Thank you, dear James. I'm Christopher.
Yeah.
And my question is kind of related to the first expert reviewer comment. It's about when you go back to the participants living with substance use disorders, about the socio-demographic characteristics. Because the question, one of his questions was why it is found in your research among those more educated when we look at the literature about how did you explain that? But then my question is, when we look at the same table, I found that the age range between 18, 24, the percentage or the number are 22, 37 and above they are 22, but then 31 to 36 they are 49, because I was wondering between 18 to 24 they are 22, but then 31 to 36 they are 49. So I was just wondering what's the meaning you make of that finding. Still maybe informed by the literature review about that, because I was kind of maybe thinking probably it could be just the way that the expert said. Probably we could expect, to see that among the less educated. And me, I was thinking probably we could expect to see that maybe between the 28, 30, 35. But in your findings, they are more of 31 to 36. Yeah. So what meaning do you make of that high, prevalence in that age range?
That
Thank you
age
so much.
range?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that finding has also been supported by other studies, especially the ones that are authored by UNODC. And the explanation could be that these are not necessarily, these are people who have surpassed the experimental age, because the experimental age is the one that will take time to know whether this drug is good, whether that is okay. So the experimental age is at the lower age grade. But by the time they reach 31 to 36, they have already formed opinions about drugs. They have met more friends who use drugs. And so they seem to that seems to inform that particular age bracket, their involvement more in substance use disorders compared to other ranges.
Any further questions? Farouk, I can see we have about 14 comments in the chat, maybe. Okay, so James, there's a question for you here. Saying thank you. That's from Kobusinje Morin. Thank you, James, for the very interesting study. When you have incorporated all the comments and guidance from the panel and the reader, your work will be a beautiful one. All the best. Okay, so it's a comment.
Thank you.
Yeah. Looks like we don't have any further questions or comments. Just maybe the last one from me. After having said all this, after all these years of doing the study, I see your registration is 2015. So that's about, I will not say the number of years.
I actually registered in 2020. I am a 2020 entrant, yeah.
But after all this, just in a nutshell, what is the story that you have told in your book?
The story I have told is that at least when I'm speaking to people, I'm speaking to everyone, whether the people who are here or outside or virtually. Substance use disorders are a problem that affects everyone, cross-section of society. And we need to take time to engage them. We need to engage people with substance use disorders, and especially to support them. There has been a lot of reluctance on the part of members of the society to look at this age, to look at this population, but we need to support them.
Okay, that's the advocacy part, but I think what you have told in the book should be empirical, not just the advocacy. Anyway, colleagues, let's move to the next segment of our work today, and that is the retreat of the panel to discuss what has just happened, and we reach a verdict. Colleagues, without further delays, I'm glad to announce to you the verdict of the panel, and it is a pass. Congratulations, James.
Thank you so much.
Please.